Hi, I'm a local hippie, and today we're going to be talking about Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So, I picked this book up totally by chance. I just needed a book to listen to for when I go for walks, for when I'm playing Mahjong or Sudoku or doing a Sudoku puzzle, because I don't think you could say you're playing Sudoku, doing a Sudoku puzzle, or whatever, whatever I might do. Um, whatever hobby, or if I'm washing dishes, or if I'm cooking, anything. It could be anything, where I'm not able to like physically read a book because I'm otherwise occupied. I just picked this book up on a whim, and I wasn't expecting much from it. The first day I rented it, I went out on a walk and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and listen to this so I can have something to listen to as I'm walking, because I don't always like to listen to music, so most of the time I'm listening to like a YouTube video or a book, and this just so happened to be the book. And I was like, wow, like immediately the first couple minutes into the reading, I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. And I had a good feeling about it because my favorite genre of uh of literature is romance. That's like my north star, and I always come back to it, and I probably read the most of it, even though I think my reading is pretty diverse and I'm trying to be even more diverse in my reading. Romance is my north star. And I have never read anything by Abby Jimenez up until this point. This is my very first book by her, which is probably not a good thing because I think this is the third book in a series, and there are characters from previous books in this book that I had no idea who they were, and things that I probably didn't pick up on, Easter eggs and things like that I didn't pick up on. But I rented this book from Libby, and they didn't have any other Abby Jimenez audiobooks available. So that was actually, I think I actually just looked up like audiobooks through a filter and filtered what was available immediately to rent and I didn't have to wait for. And that was one of the first things that came up. And I have heard really good things about Abby Jimenez. And I was like, okay, well, let me give this a try. And I'm so glad that I did, because this book ended up being a 4.5 stars. Let me tell you something, my expectations and my standards just raised a little bit, because if you, Mr. are not willing to, oh my God, if you're not willing to do whatever it takes to get to me if I'm sick and isolated, you're not the one for me. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to give spoilers. Oh my God, Justin? Please, please. Like, oh my God, he was just like the like quintessential man written by a woman, but God, was he just done so well. And he's such a good dude, such a good hero. And oh, just like I like really fell in love with him. He's so charming and so smart and so proactive. And even though like this was a situation where they were just kind of feeling things out and trying to break a curse, he was so thoughtful. And Emma, our heroine, she was, I related a lot to her and her upbringing and her relationship with her mom. And this book, it made me feel so much more than just the butterflies and the tinglies of reading a good romance. This was very literary in that it there was so much more going on behind the scenes that made the story compelling other than the romance, like the dynamics in each of their families, Emma's dynamic with her best friend and then with her mother, and then Justin's dynamic with his family, and working through everything that he's going through. And also this book explores mental health And it's done in such a respectful way, in such a non judgmental way of people who are going through a lot of these things. And I love that. It was very respectful. It was done very tastefully. And, you know, I just had such a good time reading this book. So the premise is that um, Justin and Emma both have this sort of like curse, they call it, where the people that they date after they date them end up meeting their soulmates. And so they're thinking of each other as like the equalizer of this curse. So they're like, hey, what if we date each other and then we do all the things that need to be done in order for this to be considered a relationship for each of us. And then we break up after we've done all those things and after all the boxes are checked. And we should meet our soulmate after we're done with each other and cancel this whole curse thing out, which I thought was such a fun premise. Emma is a travel nurse and Justin works in tech. I believe he's a tech engineer or something like that. And I mean, he is going through some stuff with his family. All throughout the book, we see what he's going through and everything that he has on his plate and everything that he's juggling. And when we get to Emma, like her family issues don't really come to a head until near the end of the book. And it's like, what the heck? Because there is a subplot. And I think we didn't really spend a whole lot of time with this subplot, but it ended up being the thing that kind of pushes Emma away from Justin towards the end and what gives them that third act breakup. And, I'm it it was crazy is all I can say. That's all I can say. It was crazy. And I definitely didn't guess that. I thought I can't even tell you what I thought, but I thought it was going to be one thing and it was completely different. Like the fabric of her life is just completely pulled from under her when she finds this out at the end. And I just thought that this was so well done and it was cute, it was funny, it was witty, but it also was so empathetic towards the characters in this book. Um, And one of the things that Emma says in the book that I love is if you can choose empathy or anger, or if you have a choice between empathy and anger, always choose empathy. And I thought that was very lovely and how that one theme threads throughout the entire book. Um, and I just I just had so much fun. And I feel like Emma and Justin feel like a couple who are real, who had lives before the book and are going to continue having a life after the book. And yeah, and I just related to Emma and everything that she's going through. Not everything she's going through, but the things that she's going through so much. And I just felt that her situation and and her life was so relatable and so real. And I just, this being my first exposure to Abby Jimenez, I'm like, well done. It made me want to read like everything else I can read by her. Anything I can get my hands on, I want to read, and probably backtrack and read the first two books of the series because I think the first one is Part of Your World, and then there's one in the middle, and then there's Just for the Summer. So, I do want to go back in time and read those things and kind of see if, how much I actually like Abby Jimenez or whether this book, Just for the Summer, was just a blip, and I just really enjoy this one. I'm so glad I picked this up on a whim because I feel like I just been missing so much because I've heard so many good things about Abby Jimenez and I just never listened. And it wasn't even that FOMO caught up to me and I was just like, yeah, let me read her. It was just literally I picked on her book because it was available and I knew that she writes romance or she writes literary romance, I think, or literary fiction slash romance, maybe. But either way, I just knew a little bit about her. I knew enough about her to want to give her book a try, but I definitely wasn't experiencing FOMO at all. You know, it was just on a whim. And I'm so glad that I ended up reading or listening to this book. But yeah, so that was 4.5 stars. And that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good evening. And most importantly, I hope you read a good book. And I'll see you when I see you.